Hi,
Hello, Jason. How are you?
very good. There we go.
There you go. There you go.
There we go.
How
And
you doing, man?
we got the great backgrounds like all green screen. How's it going with you, Doogie?
That's no, that's oh, hang on, you've disappeared. There you are, back again. No, I've just blurred it in the background. I didn't wash the windows.
It looks good though. It's all professionally done in the background. You know how you
I'll
do.
put a different one up if it makes you happy.
No, it's fine like that. Looks good. Doogie White, how's it going with you in the land of rock and roll these days?
Quiet,
Very quiet for you.
quiet, but busy. It's probably good for my hearing, but not good for anything else, to be honest. It's
Like,
I mean, it's over. I played. I did 6 gigs last year, and normally I would do that in a week,
wow.
and it's been. I haven't done one since February 2020, so it's been a bit of a drag, to be honest.
So now you can hear pretty clear. You know, you can hear the birds outside and everything. Crystal
Yeah,
clear.
yeah. Well, what I did, what my wife and I did was we moved house, because there was nothing else to do. So what do? You buy another house.
Of course.
I'm living in Edinburgh, at the foot of the Pentland Hills in Edinburgh. If anybody knows where that is, it's very nice, and we're actually having some good weather. So I thought I would just come out and take advantage of it.
You got to do it when you can because sometimes when it rains, it rains.
Yeah, you do, man.
As Yet Untitled, I mean, this is going to be a great reshoot album. Where you get the idea, first of all, to get the album called As Yet Untitled, because that's a unique name.
Okay, it's there. Over here in the UK, there was a newspaper called Sounds, and an offshoot of that was called Kerrang. Right? Kerrang's still going, and they always would say, Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush are in the studio recording a new album as Yet Untitled. And I thought, do you know what? If I ever get to record an album, I'm going to call it As Yet Untitled. And so I had three titles. The first one was Visual Surveillance of Extremities, and I got that from Stephen Donaldson books, Lord Fowl's Bane, about a guy who had leprosy, and he has to do this to check his he has to check all his extremities every day, to see that, because the blood supply gets cut off, and if he bangs his hand, he might get gangrene and die. And the other one was Long Shadows Dawn. So I've covered them all now.
Okay. As Yet Untitled. Very good
Yep.
name. And now we know it's from Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush. That's awesome.
It was the first one that popped into my head.
That's nice, though. Canadian band. Like it's all like that. You picked and choose the songs, I'm sure, to get on this because there's some pretty epic songs, and I mean your voice is just delivering. Is it songs you grew up to when you loved, or is it just?
What we talk about? We talk about the second CD here.
Yeah, second CD.
The cover version CD. No, the cover version CD. The As Yet Untitled album, the actual album itself is all songs that I wrote over the years, and it was released 11 years ago, but no one took any interest in it. The record company just did nothing with it. So I got it back. I got the rights to the album back, and I approached the record company, and it just so happened that they had a bunch of tribute CDs. Now, tribute CDs back in the late 90s, early 2000s were very popular. They were doing them. Cleopatra Records in America were doing them with Kulik and, different folk. And over here, we were doing them with Bernie Shaw, Steve Overland, Bernie Tormé, Bernie Marsden. Everybody called Bernie was there. And I would get a call on a Sunday night or a Monday morning saying, we're going to be recording a Nazareth or a Whitesnake or a Thin Lizzy tribute album at the end of the week. Would I come in? Would I do these 3 songs and come in and sing them? So that's what we did. I learned the songs during the week and would arrive at lunchtime down in just outside London and sing the tunes, and then be home in time for dinner. And you know, there are songs on there that I don't remember doing. I mean, I don't remember doing Not Fade Away or Emerald or Let's Spend the Night Together, because it was such a production line of songs and different tributes to different bands. I mean, I did Slade and T-Rex, Yes. I mean, there was a whole bunch of stuff going on, and we kind of I never got any of the albums. I mean, so it was a great surprise for me to see what they actually chose. I didn't get to choose any of them; they just picked them and stuck them on there. Nothing to do with me, sir.
Did you personally know Bernie Tormé?
Yes, I did. I knew. I saw Bernie about 6 months before he died, actually. And we played a festival in Scotland, not together, but we were on the same bill. And he was there. And I actually got up and sang with him here in Edinburgh. I played in Edinburgh earlier on in that year. And he sent me an email, says, "Are you coming?" And I said, yeah. He says, "Will you get up and sing?" I said, "Of course I will." So I got up and sang a couple of songs with him. I loved his guitar playing, you know, and he was a great character, but his guitar playing spoke volumes for that style. I mean, nobody sounded like him ever, you know. He just that dive bombing, and I mean, it was just a Strat. There was no fancy work going into this. It was a big muff, a Strat, and his fingers and his technique. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it when I first heard him with Gillan. It was years ago.
Yeah, and you know, he joined Ozzy Osbourne and did a great job there for a few weeks.
Yeah, it was. I think I never spoke to him about his time with Ozzy, to be honest. But he was just such a lovely lad. You know, I liked him a lot. I would have liked to have had Bernie play on that album, but he wasn't one of these guys that would go step out and do these kind of things. I mean, I did contact him and say, "Listen, man, do you fancy playing on this, or do you fancy playing?" "Nah, I'm working on my own stuff," you know.
Yeah. And like yourself, you play with the masters of rock, you know, Yngwie Malmsteen, Ritchie Blackmore, Schenker, and you know, you've met the best. You know, I'm sure you're feeling pretty blessed to have your career lined up with them in their discographies.
Well, it was all, you know, it's all, I get asked this a lot. You know, from when I was 15 years old, I just wanted to play with Ritchie Blackmore. I would have liked to have been in Whitesnake, but that would have just been silly. You know, that would have been silly, because David Coverdale, you know, that was his baby. But I always wanted to play with Ritchie, and I was fortunate enough to do it, and I had a great time with him, and he had a great time with me. We made a good album. It wasn't a brilliant album, but it was a good album. You know, he felt we had to compromise in some of the songs. What he said to me was, "Don't be writing any of these, you know, Dio-type lyrics. You know, we have to write songs that girls will like." You know, and we went out and played. And I think the only girls that ever came to see Rainbow when I was in the band were dragged there by their boyfriends. You know. Yeah,
most likely.
You know, so it was. But it was great fun, and we did some brilliant gigs, you know, because you never knew where he was going to go. I mean, we did 2 nights at Hammersmith Odeon, and one night was 2 hours and 40 minutes long, and the next one was 90, because you never knew where he was going to take it. And because he had a really good band of musicians, you know, Bergie plays with Billy Joel now, you know, and Greg Smith's playing with Ted Nugent and Alice Cooper and stuff, you know. So he had a great bunch of musicians that he knew that he could rely on. He could go off on a tangent and come back, and it would work perfectly, and it did, and it was the same kind of thing when I worked with Yngwie. You know, he would go off on tangents as well, but he had great musicians around him that allowed him to go and reach out to his audience, because let's face it, people come to see Yngwie Malmsteen. You know, it doesn't matter who's in the band.
Right.
And so that worked. So working with Michael was a different discipline for me, because Michael out of them all, Michael was the most disciplined, I think. Disciplined for himself and for the band. He disciplines himself very strictly. And so the musicians round about him, there was no room for going off and experimentation. If it goes round 4 bars before the singer comes in, it goes round 4 bars before the singer comes in. Not like with Yngwie or Ritchie, where it could go round 8 bars if everybody's moving along. So it was a different discipline, and having worked with those other 2 great guitar players, to work with another great guitar player where it was completely different was a great learning curve for me. I learned so much from Michael in that sort of way of keeping it, square and in the box,
So you covered all aspects of rock and roll, playing with,
of course,
the jamming aspect, and, and then going to super tight that you need to do it at 4 bars.
Well, you see, what would have been good was if I'd played with Michael. I mean, I was with Michael for 9 years, but if I'd played with Michael before I went and worked with Jon Lord, because it was I did some shows with Jon in an orchestra. Right. And it's like, oh my God, because you can't have a 70-piece orchestra trying to follow the singer. So that was another incredible discipline. And that's kind of what I needed at that stage in my career, was to find that kind of discipline, because I was used to the free form of going off in tangents and doing what, throwing in songs in the set that we hadn't rehearsed.
Going into, like, let's say, in an orchestra type of atmosphere, there's not much room for error, let's on your part.
No, there's no room for error. It's not that there's not
you have to hear everything correctly.
No, there's no room. So Jon was very kind, and the conductor were very kind, because I had never done that before. I mean, I've done it since, but I had never done it before, worked with an orchestra. So what was great was that Jon explained to me what was going on and how it was going to be, because you just see a guy waving a baton and you think, what's he doing? He's just waving. He's not even in time, and Jon explained it all to me. And so I just kept my eye on the conductor, and he would go, and I would get the little point, and I knew that was me, even though I knew the song and I knew when to come in. I still had to look at the guy. When we did Child in Time, or when we did Pictures at Home, I know when to come in, but I still had to look just to make sure that we were all on the same page. It was brilliant. It was those were 3 of the most pleasing concerts I ever played with Jon.
Just in case the conductor decides to go a little 1 bar extra.
Oh, don't. I had that later on. I was playing somewhere in Europe, and we had an orchestra, and clearly the drummer, either he couldn't read music, or he was just guessing. I was like, what is he doing? The tempos were all. Oh, that was mental, and that was scary. That was scary. But that's what's great about rock and roll musicians, is that they can go off on tangents. Orchestral musicians are a different beast. A completely different beast. A lot of them can't improvise. If they've got it in front of them, they can see it and do it, even if that's the first time they've seen it. And they can all play in unison. It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. But ask them to go off piste, and I don't know many that can.
It's a different beast, like you said.
It's a different beast.
And when you're on the rock and roll field, it's one of the best fields to be in, because you own the tempos.
Yeah.
And you decide where it goes. I mean, in your career too, I mean, we can't even talk about Iron Maiden. You've did everything. I mean, to like just at least hang out with the band. How was that?
Well, I didn't get the job, and I never told anybody about it. I auditioned twice for them. I was first in and last in, and of course Blaze got the job and did terrifically well. And I don't think that it really matters who had got the gig. I think when Bruce decided to return, and when Steve decided to allow him to return, I think that the universe, the metal universe, if you like, just became whole again. And they've gone on to greater strengths and greater strengths. Every album, every tour, every year, it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But what was surprising for me was, you know, the small rehearsal room that they rehearsed in at Steve's house, you know, and they stood in a circle round about me. And to try and make it normal for me, I had Nico behind me. Okay. And I had Steve, and then I had Davey, then I had Steve, and then I had Yannick over this side. And we just ran through, I think, 20 songs or something, had a cup of tea, and then ran through 4 or 5 more that Steve wanted to hear me redo. And then they invited me back again. And but I didn't get the job, you know, so I didn't tell anybody. And it wasn't until I was in Japan with Ritchie, and I was doing interviews for Burn magazine, and somebody said, "Oh, a new edition for Iron Maiden." I was like, "How do you know that?" And they held up "Run to the Hills," the book, and Steve had mentioned me. Excuse me, Steve had mentioned me in that, which I thought was a, you know, I've been answering questions about it for 20 odd years now, and I'd never told anybody, you know. So, but anyway, it was good fun. It was good fun. I didn't get the job, but hey.
But at least we get to hear your voice doing Iron Maiden songs on this album.
Yeah. What is it? The Clairvoyant and Bring Your Daughter to the Slaughter. Yeah. I love the Clairvoyant. That's up there with my favorite Maiden songs. I just love it. And you know, I actually got to go on stage with them once, because they bring up audience members onto the stage during the whoa ho 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 bit, and I knew Wally Grove, who was the security guy, and he went, "You get on the stage." So I had to go up onto the stage with him. Oh yeah. So the lives we've lived, the things we've done. Dear God.
Since you're in Scotland, how far are you from Nazareth? You hang out with them sometimes?
No, I don't. They're just over. Where is the water? The water's that way. So they're over in Fife in a place called Dunfermline. I mean, it's only about 20 miles away. But Nazareth was the first band I saw, and after they heard "Love Hurts," which I don't know what the other song on there is. It might be "Broken Down Angel" or it might be "Razamanaz." Because This Flight Tonight. Well, I must have done 4 then. And they heard that, and when Dan couldn't do it anymore, they phoned me up and asked me if I would be interested in doing it. Wow. But at that time I had just joined Schenker. Okay. You know, so that was about 10 years ago, and I just joined Schenker, and so it wasn't. And the thing is, don't tell anybody, but the thing is, Dan's such a legend up here, and I've got such respect for him. And I don't have that kind of voice. You know, my voice is not, it doesn't have that burning fire that Dan had from a very, very young age. And so it wouldn't, I don't know that it would have worked. I mean, it worked in the studio because it was just in, sing it, get out. But I think to do a whole set and a whole tour in Nazareth, Carol Sentence, who they have now, is just brilliant at it. I mean, he's a great singer in his own right, but he's really found his feet with Nazareth. You know, it was always going to be a challenge to whether he would be accepted, because when you step into these kind of shoes, but he's handled it with such grace and a beautiful, edgy voice that he delivers it, and you know, and it's still got that Nazareth vibe that it would not have had I gone and joined them.
And talking about Dan McCafferty, he would have been a great AC/DC singer, you know, to replace Bon Scott, because he has the mixture of those types of voice. You know, another Scottish band.
Yeah, he's got that fire. I actually toured. Ripper, Owens, Dan, and myself actually toured out in Ukraine and Georgia, the country, not the state. And that was orchestral tours. That was when the drummer was a bit hinky.
Okay.
But and it was great. I like Dan very much, you know, and I like Ripper as well. We had a lot of fun, the three of us together. But no, I think Brian Johnson was a good choice for AC/DC after, you know, because he was in a band called Geordie that was over here. They had a song called Electric Lady, and it was just, you know, that was it. As soon as you heard them singing on the Back in Black album, you thought, you know what, they made the right call here.
They did. They certainly did. And you know, right now you're in Alcatrazz. I mean, the intro of Yngwie Malmsteen, him joining Alcatrazz, and now you're in Alcatrazz in 2021. How did that happen? That you replaced Graham Bonnet?
Well, Graham, I was doing an album for Frontiers Records, like I was saying about Long Shadows Dawn. Long Shadows Dawn is a project I have with a guy called Emil Norberg from a band Persuader from Sweden. And I got together with him, and Frontiers signed us up for 3 albums.
Okay.
The first album's called Isle of Wrath. It comes out in August, and we were just finishing that. Just finishing it, and it was finished on the 31st of December. And round about the 1st of December, the Alcatrazz guys called me and said, Graham's left. And I was like, okay. They said, because I'd met Graham. I've known Graham for years. We've been good pals for many years. He stayed with me a couple of times when I was in London. And he was up here playing in Edinburgh. And I went out and had coffee with him, and we walked around the old city. And I showed him the castle and things like that. And he said, I just don't want to do this anymore. I don't like this kind of music. I didn't like this kind of music when I was doing it with Yngwie. I didn't like this kind of music when I was doing it with Vi, and I'm not enjoying it now. And I said, well, what do you want to do, man? And he said, I want to go back to the Graham Bonnet band. And I said, well, look, you've got nothing to prove. You're a legend. Go and, you're 70-something-year-old now. Your voice is still in good nick. You look brilliant. Why don't you just go and do something that makes you happy? I didn't know he was going to quit the bloody band, did I?
Wow.
But he did. So they called me up and said, look, we've got tour dates to promote the Born Innocent album. Can you do them? And just about a week after that, the dates got cancelled. And I said, well, listen, rather than being a Graham Bonnet cover band of Alcatrazz, why don't we write a new record together? So we spoke with the record label, Silver Linings, and they were very keen to get a new album. So we finished that. I started working that in the middle of January, and we finished it I think about the 29th of April or something, from writing to recording to mixing. And we released the first single, which is called Turn of the Wheel, which has a video accompaniment to it, and that's out now. And the second release comes out next Friday, the 24th, which is called Sword of Deliverance, and that's a metal killer, that one. So that's how I ended up in Alcatrazz, because Graham didn't want to do it anymore. They'd had a #1 album in Japan, a top 10 album in Germany. It was doing really well in the rock charts worldwide, and they wanted to capitalize on it. And so I just, okay, if we can write a good album, then why not? And people will buy into it, or people won't buy into it, and either way, it's okay with me.
It's all great stuff, and it's good to see the new promo videos out, and hopefully more. And and for yourself, will you be having promo videos as Doogie White?
What, for the solo album?
Yeah.
No. It's very difficult to do these kind of things in lockdown now, and it would have to be fake. It would have to be faked up with players who are not on the record. So I won't be doing anything like that. I wish I'd spoken to you before I did all this. Then I could have got some of the guys together to do it, but I never thought about it, to be honest. I didn't know the interest in the album was going to take off quite so much as it has. This is my 3rd interview today.
Wow.
I mean, it's and I had 3 yesterday, and I've got 1 tomorrow morning because I take Thursdays off for family days, and then I've got another 3 or 4 on Friday. I mean, it's just the interest has been massive for it, and that's very pleasing for me. It's very pleasing for me. So I wish I'd had the budget, or I wish I'd had the forethought or foresight to put something together. But it is what it is. It's a great album. I'm very pleased with it, even 11 years on, and especially with the 2 bonus tracks now. That works for me. I kept them. I always over-record what I'm doing, because you never know when you get to the end process and you're putting the songs on the album together. You never know if one of them's going to be like a naughty child, and you just think, it's not, that one doesn't work. But so I left Dish in the Dirt and Small Town Saturday Night off it, but I'm glad that they're included in there now, you know, or they'll be sitting around for another 10 years just in case I do a solo album then.
Right. So Doogie, here we got like 4 minutes left because
okay, man,
the times of Zooms, that's how it's scheduled.
Sure.
Let's say for touring this summer, are you booked anywhere? I mean, is there something happening?
No, the summer, the festivals, we're not doing anything like that. The April tour dates that we were supposed to be doing with Alcatrazz have been moved to the end of the year. The Russian orchestral tour that I was going to do with Uli John Roth, Marco Mendoza, Graham Bonnet, my friend, Ross the Boss, and a couple of other guys, that's been postponed to next year because in Russia the variant virus, the Delta variant of the virus, is rampaging through Russia at the moment.
Okay.
So they've postponed that till next year, and hopefully things will have calmed down a little bit to allow us to tour later on in the year. But that really, really just depends on how this virus behaves or misbehaves as it seems to be doing, because we don't want to put ourselves or anybody else in any kind of dodgy situation, and you know, because we'll be playing medium to small size clubs, and if you don't, you know, and so this social distancing thing that they have, you know, I don't know. We'll wait and see. That's nothing booked except those dates towards the end of the year. Okay. And hopefully next year will be better, because it'll be 2 years come February since I was last on a stage.
Wow.
You know?
Well, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Yeah, that's a lot of ice cream.
Doogie, thank you very much for the time today, and you're a pleasure to talk to.
Thank you very much, man. Love and peace. Take care.
All right. Stay well. You have a brilliant day.
Man.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you.